My name's Daniel Roy, and today I'm going to teach you the in-the-hand spread, the tabled ribbon spread, and the domino turnover. Now, before we learn to spread cards out on the table, we have to learn to spread them in our hands. So if you are a right-handed person, you'll hold the cards in left-hand dealing position. If you're left-handed, you're going to hold them in right-handed dealing position. Keep in mind that you just have to be consistent. If you hold the cards from underneath in your left hand and from above in your right hand, you need to do that for all the moves you do, and vice versa. If you hold them this way, you need to do this for all the moves that you do. Now, I made a video all about how to hold a deck of cards, and it will be linked in the description. So we'll start with the cards in left-hand dealing position. That means you've got these three fingers on one side, the index finger at the outer end, and the thumb lies along the left side of the deck. Now, you'll notice that the fingers aren't way up here, and they're not way down here. The tips of the fingers are just slightly above the top card of the deck, and you'll notice that the cards are held with horizontal pressure between the base of the thumb and these three fingers here. Now, also notice that there's a little bit of space under the deck, so they're not totally pressed down into the hand, nor are the cards way up here. They're just resting in the palm along this crease here and along the creases of the fingers here. And this is left-hand dealing position. Now, in terms of how tightly you hold the cards, you want to imagine you're holding a bird. Hold the cards tightly enough that the bird can't fly away, but not so tight that you crush the wings. It's one of my favorite metaphors, and it comes from Card College by Roberto Giobbi. Now, to spread the cards between our hands, we're going to start with the cards in left-hand dealing position. You're going to take the tip of the left thumb, and you'll put it along the side of the cards here. And now you're going to push a small group of cards over to the right. Now, you're going to do this while slightly extending these fingers. If you didn't extend these fingers, then the cards would just run into these fingertips and they wouldn't go anywhere. But by slightly extending these fingers, the cards can begin to flow over the tops of those fingers. And you're now going to spread the cards into the fork of the right thumb, and you want the fork of the thumb to go about halfway up the side of the cards. So not up here, not down here, about halfway, maybe a little bit in front of halfway. Now, after you take this first group of cards in the fork of the thumb, you're going to keep using the left thumb to push over more and more cards, and you're going to extend all of your fingers under the deck like this. Now, notice that when I extend my fingers, they are no longer overlapping. I'm not confined to just spreading the cards like this. Rather, by extending my fingers, I'm actually able to extend them such that there are cards in between my hands, that it seems as though my fingers aren't even touching. The extension of these fingers is what allows you to achieve a wide spread, because even though these fingers are only here, touching the edges of these cards, they're actually supporting these cards all the way over to this side. And the same thing goes over here on this hand, and that's what allows you to get a nice wide spread. So once again, you have the cards in left-hand dealing position. You take the tip of the left thumb, you push cards over into the fork of the thumb, and then you keep pushing groups of cards over while extending the fingers under the deck. Now, once you've begun spreading the cards, you're just going to keep going through the cards like this until you get to the very end. And now you should have all the cards in your right hand between your fingers on the bottom and your thumb on the top. And you're just going to put everything back in the left hand and then square up all the cards like so. Now, another way of squaring up the cards, if you don't need to go all the way through the spread, is to just take the right hand and push back to the left, and you simply put the cards back in dealing position like this, and then you square up all the cards. So that's another way of squaring up the spread. Now, when you spread the cards between your hands, if all four of your fingers are under the spread, then if you tilt them this way, the cards will fall, and if you tilt them back towards you, the cards will fall. And of course, you don't really want that to happen because it's rather inelegant. So, there's a solution. If for whatever reason you need to tilt the cards forward, you can always put the index fingers out in front of the spread like this to help cage the cards in. And if you need to tilt the hands backward for whatever reason, you can always put the pinkies behind the spread, and by putting the pinkies behind the spread, they support the cards like this. Now, the reason I'm not saying, oh, you should do it this way all the time or this way all the time is because there are different circumstances in which you will need to tilt the hands forward or tilt the hands backward, or sometimes you'll actually need the index fingers at the front edges and the pinkies at the backs all at once. So you simply want to get comfortable with all hand positionings. 4 fingers under the spread, index fingers at the front, pinkies at the back, and then both index fingers and pinkies at the front and back of the cards. So just get comfortable with all of those finger positionings and you'll always know what to do. Now, when you have a card selected for a trick, instead of saying pick a card, any card, I prefer to just say, go ahead, take any card. Pick a card, any card is sometimes a little too cliche, and take any card is nice and casual and very direct. So you have someone take a card. Now, as they're pulling the card out, you will need to support the spread with your hands, and you'll need to exert enough pressure on the cards that if they kind of jostle the cards as they're taking the card out, they won't all fall. But once the card has been selected, generally speaking, you just use the right hand to move back to the left, and then you square everything up back into dealing position. So that's how to have a card selected from the deck. Now, when you have people select cards, they will often want to take a card from a very specific spot in the deck for whatever reason. And as you're spreading, what you'll notice is that their hand will start to get nearer and nearer to the deck. And as they come in to take a card, just pause the spread and open the cards up a little more widely such that they can take any card they want to. If you keep spreading like this as they're trying to reach in and take a card, it can seem as if you don't actually want them to take the card they were aiming for. Now, sometimes that's true, but when it's not true, you want to give them as much freedom as they can have. So generally, as you notice them reaching in just to take the card, you just pause the spread and open things up by moving the hands apart a little more. They take out whatever card they want, and then you square everything back up in dealing position. So now that we know how to spread the cards in our hands, we can learn to spread them on the table. Now, one thing that's very important for a ribbon spread is that you need some kind of soft surface. This is going to be very difficult and nearly impossible if you're on a hard table, especially one with a slick finish. It doesn't matter how well you apply pressure to the cards as you're doing the ribbon spread, it just won't work. Some hard tables that have a stickier finish may work, but generally speaking, make your life easy. Practice this on a placemat, or put out a blanket, or practice it on a carpet. And of course, even better is to have a close-up mat. Now, if you look in the description of this video, you'll see some links of where you can go to buy mats. Mats like this that will make your life much easier. They make it much easier to pick up cards, and they also make it much easier to ribbon spread cards on the table like this. So just check the description for some links of where you can buy some very nice mats that will last you a long time. But if you don't have a mat, again, just practice on a tablecloth or a placemat or a carpet or a blanket, just as long as that soft surface is on top of some flat surface. And also, you don't want to have a surface that's tiny. If you only have a few inches here to ribbon spread the cards, well, you're not going to get much out of that. You want to have at least 16, 17 inches here, maybe even more, to get a nice ribbon spread. So, to ribbon spread the cards on the table, you first need to transfer the deck from left-hand dealing position to right-hand end grip. So what that means is you extend the left index finger under the deck, the right hand comes over, and the right thumb is going to go at the back here, and the right second, third, and fourth fingers will go at the front end, and the index finger curls on top. Now, you'll notice that the tips of these fingers are not just below the cards. They extend a fair bit below the cards, so that you're actually holding the cards a little bit higher up on these fingers and a little bit higher up on the thumb, like this. Also notice that my hand isn't totally vertical like this, which causes gaps to appear between the fingers. Rather, I've rotated the heel of my hand downward to bring these fingers at an angle. So this is right hand end grip. And if you're confused about this grip or you want to learn more, just check out my video on how to hold a deck of cards. Now, once we've transferred the cards into right hand end grip, you need to apply a slight bevel to the deck. And a bevel is just a slight smear in the cards. And you can bevel the deck in any number of different ways. But for the ribbon spread, the bevel that's the most helpful is to hold the deck in end grip. With the left hand, you're going to come under the deck, and you're going to put the outer joint of the second finger along this side of the deck, the outer joint of the thumb along this side of the deck, and you'll just lightly curl your index finger underneath. And you're going to use your middle finger here and your thumb here to bevel the deck this way. So the way you do it is you use your middle finger to drag to the left, and you use your thumb to help gauge the cards as they move outward like this. So you're fundamentally using your left middle finger to smear the cards this way, but you're doing it in a controlled manner. And part of the motion is done with the middle finger pulling this way in a sort of arcing motion, because you don't want the bevel to just be flat like that. You actually want it to twist such that the cards are square at this corner, but beveled out here. And so it's partly that the left middle finger drags this way, and it's also partly that the right hand rotates this way. So it's the simultaneous motion in two opposing arcs, the left middle finger arcing this way and the right hand arcing this way, that causes these cards to bevel. And you want to have a very even bevel. You don't want the cards to smear apart like this. You want a nice, even bevel in the cards like so. Now, once the cards are beveled like this, you're going to take the left hand away again. So the cards are still held in end grip between the second, third, and fourth fingers and the thumb, and with the index finger curled on top. But, of course, now there's this big bevel. So the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to take the right index finger and you're going to put it along the side of the deck. When we hold the cards in end grip, we always want the index finger curled on top. We do not want it over here, but this is the one exception. For the ribbon spread, you take your right index finger and you put it along the side such that the tip of the right index finger goes just below the edge of the cards. So now with this bevel in place, with the right index finger extended, you're going to put the cards down on the table like this. Now, usually you would start the spread all the way over to your left, but I'm going to start it here in the middle of the table just so it's a little easier to see. What's going to happen is you are going to begin to drag the hand to the right while applying downward pressure onto the table. Now, the thing about this pressure is that the index finger is going to act as a gauge. So if the index finger were to stay all the way down here and you drag to the right, nothing happens. But if you ever so slowly extend your index finger, similar to how we extended these three fingers when we were spreading the cards between our hands, if you're able to extend the index finger slowly, you'll notice that you are able to slowly release cards. The more the index finger extends, the more cards come out of its control, which means those cards can be spread. And as you get near the end, you're going to totally take the second, third, and fourth fingers and the thumb out of the way, and you'll just spread the last few cards with the index finger itself. So this is the basic action of the ribbon spread. You bevel the cards, the index finger extends over the side, and you'll notice how it's at sort of an angle relative to the side of the deck, but you can play with that angle based on the structure of your hands. And again, the tip of the index finger goes just below the cards, and now you put the cards down, you lighten the pressure slightly with the second, third, and fourth fingers here and with the thumb here, and you now extend the index finger slowly as you drag the right hand. So again, I could almost do the ribbon spread without the second, third, and fourth fingers and without the thumb. It's mostly the index finger acting as a gauge with some downward pressure. These fingers act mostly to cage the cards in place and keep everything nice and tidy. Now, when you're doing the ribbon spread, you need to spread at a consistent rate. If you spread unevenly, you'll get, of course, these big clumps or big smears in the cards that don't look very nice. So this requires a nice, even motion of the right hand, and it requires nice, even pressure. So when you ribbon spread the cards, it will look like this. Now, generally, the ribbon spread looks most elegant when it's done in an arc, but that's certainly not the only way to do the ribbon spread. Instead of an arc like this, you could ribbon spread the cards in a diagonal line like this and aim for a straight line. You could also aim for a horizontal straight line. You could also aim for some weird zigzaggy pattern. You can do whatever you want. And the way that you ribbon spread the cards is going to be dependent on what you're doing with the ribbon spread and the trick. Generally speaking, this nice wide arc tends to look the most elegant, and if you're doing a trick where you are ribbon spreading the cards to display some revelation or to have a card selected, this is often the best choice. Now, of course, the wider the surface is, the more shallow an arc you can make, and you can get a nice wide even spread like this. If you have a narrower table, you'll need to maybe make a slightly more pronounced arc so that you can still get some spread to the cards. So you just adjust the type of spread you do to the table surface that you're working with. Now with the ribbon spread, when you're ribbon spreading face up, you need to be cognizant of what the ribbon spread is actually showing. So I'm right-handed, so if I ribbon spread the cards like this face up, you'll notice that the indices of the cards all face me. The cards are right side up from my perspective. Now, if I'm performing for a large audience and I've got a spectator here and a spectator here that are sort of sharing my perspective, then this is fine, because ultimately it's these two people who really need to be able to see the cards right side up, and this is great. However, if I'm performing for people who are around a table here, and no one is sharing my perspective, and I ribbon spread the cards like this, well, this looks great for me, but it's upside down for the audience, which isn't so great. Now, this isn't always necessary to do this, but if you want the indices to be right side up for the audience, you'll need to ribbon spread the other way. So there are a few ways of doing this. You could, for example, just take the cards in a left-hand end grip and ribbon spread this way to get the indices face up. You could also take the deck in what's called a sort of sidewise end grip. This is a grip that's often used to riffle shuffle cards. You could take the deck at a sidewise end grip like this, which means the thumb is on one side, 3 fingers on this side, and the index finger on top. And you'll notice that I'm not holding the cards up here. I'm leaving about half of these cards exposed outside of the grip. So this is just like end grip, but I've simply turned the deck sideways. And you're going to ribbon spread the cards. This time the middle finger will act as the gauge, and the index finger will apply some downward pressure, and the thumb will cage the cards in from this side. So you'll ribbon spread like this, the thumb begins to get out of the way, and by further extending the middle finger, you can use it as a gauge to evenly, or in this case, not so evenly, because it's hard to do this rather slowly, you can rather evenly, like that, spread the cards out on the table. And you'll notice that in this ribbon spread, the indices of the cards face the audience. So that's just something to keep in mind. So now we get to the part that I'm sure you've been waiting for, which is the domino turnover, also known as the ribbon spread turnover. It is the classical look, how cool I am, I'm such a cool magician move, oh God, please help, what am I doing with my life? Now, this is a lot of fun. Let's take that again. Now we get to the super cool domino turnover that will make everyone in your life love you. It's the solution to all your problems. Just learn this, and you'll become extremely charismatic. It will resolve your love life. It will make quarantine bearable. I don't know. Maybe it won't. But at least at the end of the day, you'll be able to go like, ooh, look, I'm so cool. I can do this thing. Okay, now we get to the part I'm sure you've been waiting for, the domino turnover, also known as the ribbon spread turnover. There, that was better. This is a very classic magician type move. It looks very cool, it's very elegant, people love watching it. There's this very satisfying ASMR type effect to it, and it's a lot of fun to practice. Now, to do the domino turnover, you need to start by ribbon spreading the cards on the table. Now, in this ribbon spread, it needs to be very even, and you also do not want to have any parts that are too widely spread, because if you do, you will try to do the domino, and it will break at that point, because this card was so far away from this card that it wasn't able to successfully lift it up. That's why that didn't work. So you need to make sure that it is an even spread and that it's not too wide. So something like this should work well. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to take your right hand and you're going to reach over to the bottom of the deck, the part of the spread that was originally the lowermost part of the deck. In other words, where you began the spread from. You're going to use the thumb and the middle finger to grip this card, the very bottom card, and you're going to grip it not on these corners, but near the corners. And you're then going to pick it up and you want to lever it up. So if I take this card out and just pretend that it's that one, you are levering the card up like this. You're not just picking it up, you're levering it up. And then once the card is levered up, you're going to take the index finger and put it on top and begin this motion with just the index finger. So what's going to happen with that card is you're going to grip it with the thumb and the middle finger. You're going to lever it upward, index finger goes on top, thumb and middle finger come away, and you're going to then drag the index finger across. So with the actual ribbon spread, it looks like this. You lever the card upward, the index finger takes over here, and you begin dragging the index finger across the deck, and all of the cards will turn face up. So let's try that again. This time I'm going to use a much smaller ribbon spread, so it's easy to see what's happening. You pick up this card, not on the corners, but near the corners, with the thumb and the middle finger. You lever the card up, the index finger contacts the side of the card, and then you're going to begin dragging over this way. And you will feel the crest of the spread actually move along your finger like this. You'll feel that it ends up deeper on your finger than you started. So that's why you don't want to start with the index finger here, because it would end up in your palm. You want to start relatively near the tip of the index finger. Not on the tip because you don't have enough control, but around the first joint or so. And the crest will move along your finger. And when it gets here, you could just let the cards fall, or I like to take my second finger and kind of put it under the cards to catch them, and then I slowly relax them all the way down to the table, just so you don't get so much of a clunk at the end of the spread. So let's go over all of that one more time. You start in left-hand dealing position, and now the left index finger extends underneath the deck. You take the cards in end grip like this, and now you're going to bring the left hand under the deck, and you're going to bevel the cards this way using the left second finger here and the thumb here. And then the right index finger is going to extend over the side, and you'll now put the cards down on the table. The second, third, and fourth fingers and the thumb slightly release pressure, and then you're going to smear the cards with the right index finger, keeping the cards caged in place and spreading them in a nice arc like this. For the turnover, your right hand comes over to this side, you pick up this end card here at the bottom, lever it upward, the index finger comes to the top, and you run your finger along, the middle finger catches the cards at the end, and lays them down on the table. Now notice that when you ribbon spread the cards and then do the domino turnover, the cards shift. So if the ribbon spread starts here and ends here, when I now do this turnover, well now it starts here and it ends here. So just be cognizant of that, because if you do a ribbon spread and you start with the cards up to the edge of the table, if I do a domino turnover right now, these cards will fall off the edge of the table. That's a lesson I've learned the hard way. Don't do it. It doesn't end well. Now, of course, with the domino turnover, you don't have to end it on this side. You can also go all the way to this side and then bring it all the way back over here. You can even go back and forth as many times as you want. Again, the integrity of the spread will be disrupted eventually, but you don't have to end on this side. You can always start the domino turnover here, come all the way over here. You could even put the cards down if you like, and then begin another domino turnover and go back the other way. The choice is yours. Now keep in mind, you can also do the domino turnover after you've spread the cards the opposite way. You just use the right hand this time to dig your fingers under, and then you can use the thumb or the left index finger. You'll find with the domino turnover that you can basically use any part of your hands as the thing that controls the crest of the spread. You could even probably use the back of your hand or your wrist or something like that, maybe an elbow. Get creative, not too creative. And you'll be able to find lots of fun and interesting ways to manipulate the ribbon spread and to make it look very cool, but you can spread the cards in literally any configuration and you will still, to some extent, be able to do a domino turnover, even if it's some zigzag like that. So the world is your oyster. That's a weird metaphor to use here, but oh well. So now that we've learned the ribbon spread and the domino turnover, take out any card from the deck, it doesn't matter which one, and then ribbon spread the deck on the table. Now you're going to pick up this card and hold it in the left hand between the thumb and the fingers like this, and you're holding it so the thumb is above on the back and the fingers are below on the face. Now, you're going to take the right hand and begin the domino turnover like this. And once you've just started it, you're going to take this card and you're going to place it down on the crest of the spread, but you're going to aim to use a spot that's towards the left bottom corner, so around where my thumb is pointing to right now. You're going to aim to put that part down, but of course you can't fully run into the right hand here. Now you're going to transfer this card to the right hand so that the thumb is at the back and the fingertips are in the front, and you can hold it here or here or here, kind of depends on how you want this to look aesthetically. But you're going to take this card and you're now going to run this over the spread as if it's your index finger. So this card, because it is held perpendicular to the spread, that's very important. It's not parallel with the cards like this, it's perpendicular, it's crosswise. You are able to run it over the spread as if it is the index finger. Now, notice that as you move this card over, the crest of the spread will move farther and farther over. That's why we needed to start out here so that we don't run off the edge of this card. You'll also notice that depending on the arc of the spread, this card may end up moving very far forward. So if you're noticing that that happens, you may simply need to start farther inward here so that you're not so close to the outer edge. If you start farther inward and then these cards end up running forward, at least this card won't slip off the edge by the time you finish. Now, when you get to the very end, you could just let the cards fall, you could come back to the middle. If you want to be really fancy about it, you can begin to lower the right corner of this card, and as you near the end, you allow this card to come in contact with the back card of the deck so that it stops the spread for a moment. You then rotate it back like this and you let the spread fall on top. It serves the same purpose as the right middle finger, and it just catches the cards and helps to let them down to the table very softly. So what that would look like again is you ribbon spread the cards, you pick up this card in the left hand, you begin the domino turnover, you aim to put the inner left side of this card down, and you aim nearer to the back like this, and then you take the card in the right hand and you run it over like this, and then as you get to the end, this card comes down, stops the spread, it rotates back, and you can use the right middle finger to help rotate the card back by pushing onto the back of the card like so, and then the spread falls down onto the table like this. Now notice that you can also, instead of beginning this with the right hand and holding the card in your left hand, you can also grip this card in the right hand and pick up the spread with the left hand just by digging your left fingers underneath and then putting the thumb on top, and then you can begin the same way without having to transfer the card back and forth. So that's just another option. You can always dig under the spread with the left hand, put the thumb on top, and then put this card down and run your hand over the spread using the card as the thing that touches the crest in the same way. So in real time, here's what this looks like. Card goes down, you ribbon spread the cards, you run over the edge of the spread like this, and this goes right under the spread at the end. So we've learned how to spread the cards between our hands like this, we've learned how to do a ribbon spread, and we've learned how to do the domino turnover. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you liked this video, please give it a like, and if you want to see more, consider subscribing to the channel and following me on social media. If you're interested in taking private lessons, I teach magicians of all levels, or if you want to book a show, you can contact me by email or on my website. Links are in the description, along with the credits and inspirations for everything in this video. See you next time!